Treasury Minister, Senator Ozouf, thanks for another interview. It's much appreciated. The CAG report has just come out, and it's been called as damning on you and your conduct. What do you say about it? What have you got to say about the CAG report?
Well, the Lime Grove thing has been going on for more than 6 months, and I very much hope that at some point we can draw a line under the sand of it. The real question that I think the public need to know is, was the Lime Grove option the best interest of the public? What's very clear now is that the best value for money option for the public is a single police station on a state-owned site that will be built by the states of Jersey, releasing land. That is the question that hasn't been asked about Lime Grove. There are clearly lessons to be learnt about Lime Grove, and I'll be the first to admit that there are problems in the way that property holdings run, and I should have acted earlier in relation to property holdings. And I'm going to be saying that when I'm asked about this in the States next Tuesday.
Cool. Now, of course, I want to again with this report. You said that you yourself have been manipulative. You attempted to discredit and smear reputations of civil servants, and including, as far as I can gather, the Controller and Auditor General himself. Is there any truth in that?
Well, it's extraordinary.
Well, it is in the report.
I find it quite extraordinary that allegations are put to me, or allegations are put about me, that I actually don't have a proper chance to respond to. A letter was sent to Deputy Valois about matters concerning the process
from the
CAG. I didn't know about that letter. I haven't had an opportunity to respond to that. As far as civil servants is concerned, the public elect ministers and their politicians to challenge. And I agree, somebody said that my bedside manner might not be the best. And I agree that I expect very high standards, and I am certainly tough and demanding. But I think there's a big difference, if I may say, between being bullying and harassing versus actually challenging. And yes, I did challenge your officer advice, and I did not accept the officer advice I'd been given. I was being challenged, and I was being lobbied in an unprecedented way by people like Senator Ferguson. I was being pressured into signing a deal to buy that building for 8.75 million. All the people watching this broadcast and the island residents will know that that was a building that had been empty for 12 years. Yeah. I think I was entitled to ask as to why we were paying effectively a full valuation for a building that had been empty for 12 years. And I accept that as a result of my questioning, that the building did go to the only other tenant that was going to possibly use that building for other reasons. We were gazumped. Now, that's, I'm afraid, what happens sometimes. At the end of the day, I think the public is going to get better value for money with the result of what we've now achieved.
Well, that obviously will remain to be seen.
Of course.
Because I did put this, one of the questions, I've interviewed Senator Ferguson, and I said to her that you would argue that you were holding these people to account. You weren't bullying, you were doing what you were paid to do. Is that what you stand by? That you were doing what you were...
I mean, I will be the first to accept that property holdings, which is the responsibility ultimately of the Treasury Minister, has not performed as it should have done. And I was very concerned about that. I had ordinary, well-meaning states members asking me week in, week out, what are you doing about property holdings? Because property holdings weren't performing. Just look at Fort Regent, JCG. Those are symbols of inaction, of your taxpayers' money invested in property not being well looked after, and I'm accountable for that. And I caused, effectively, a reorganisation of property holdings. Now, some people won't agree with that, but I say I have an obligation, ultimately, to look after public money, to look after the public's assets, and that's what I have done in the reorganisation of property holdings. I've been accused of bullying. I don't think holding people to account is and should be regarded as bullying. Bad behaviour, certainly, but my challenging is not bullying, and it is unfair to be described as such.
Okay, so you stand by your action now, because what is happening here, I said to Senator Ferguson, I asked her if she was going to bring a vote of no confidence in you as the Treasury Minister, and she suggested, which was a good idea, that you resign. If you feel you've got the confidence of the House, will you step down and look for a re-election?
First of all, I have been elected in a contested ballot for the position of Treasury Minister, and this Lime Grove issue was one of the central issues that was running through the election. In many ways, this whole Lime Grove issue has dogged my political reputation for something like 6 months, and it's been extremely uncomfortable. I'm the first to admit that everybody needs to adapt and to change to new circumstances, and I have done so. I've been, I hope, more engaging. The workload of my Treasury Department has changed as a result of Senator Gorst, and we're operating, I think, a very effective Council of Ministers, and we need to. If the Chief Minister asks me to resign, then of course I will consider my position. But I have not had that request from the Chief Minister, and the ball is in his court. I do not think I need to resign. I think I've received many messages of support from colleagues in the States. If Senator Ferguson or another member wishes to bring a vote of no confidence, that is their right, and if that vote succeeds, of course I will resign.
Well, again, because this is another thing I put across yesterday, we're going to wait and see what Senator Gorst does. Everybody's waiting to see what everybody else is doing.
I think we should. Senator Gorst is currently away. He's out of the island for effectively the last 2 or 3 days. I haven't had a proper opportunity to speak to him. I've not had an opportunity to respond to the letter that the CAG sent to Deputy Valuer, and of course I will be. I've got questions in the States on Tuesday, and there'll be a clear mood amongst States members. What I know is that I'm not perfect. I work hard. I got support of the States to be Treasury Minister. Treasury is an extremely wide portfolio, and of course we all make mistakes, and we need to learn from those mistakes. And I'm fully accepting that there were issues with Lime Grove and property holdings that could have been done earlier and better. That's
good of you but again, here we're coming back to it again. Let's learn by our mistakes. Let's move on. And I was told the same by Senator, and there's we shouldn't be pointing the finger. Well, what I'm saying is, yes, we should be pointing the finger.
I agree.
Sorry, Senator. People are tired of saying, let's move on, let's learn from our mistakes. Somebody is to blame here. A lot of people are saying the buck stops with you as Treasury Minister.
Yeah, and the buck does stop with me, and the buck stops with me to actually provide the police with a headquarters, of which they've never had, which is best value for money to the public. And if you look at the option for Lime Grove versus what we're now doing, which was what I was told by the previous property holdings wasn't possible, the public are getting value for money. So I'm very happy to be judged on my decisions. I hope people will recognise that I have a very wide portfolio of responsibilities. I make literally hundreds of decisions, and I will not get all of them right.
So going back to the...
But do I deserve the kind of activity that has been going on in relation to Lime Grove against other things? People need to judge me by my record.
Well, we've been looking at the... I haven't bought a copy because I don't buy it. I refuse to buy it under moral grounds. But the Jersey Evening Post seem to be doing, we think, a number of us think, a bit of a number on you right now. You're getting a lot of bad press from the Jersey Evening Post, and we think, we don't know what it is. You've done something to upset them.
Well, I mean, it is always I think you have to have a thick skin as a politician, and you have to accept criticism, and you should accept criticism, and you should accept the fact that you're not going to please everybody all of the time, and you also need to hold your hand up when you make mistakes. But certainly I felt, and people around me have felt, that for a number of months I seem to be getting a pretty bad wicket from the JP,
well,
and I don't understand that.
It was Freddie Cohen before you.
Yeah, I think that Freddie Cohen was poorly treated. I think that he was unfairly treated. I mean, when I see the headline in today's JP, it says Ozouf something. Nobody else is called by their surname like I am. I don't mind being called by my surname, but nobody else seems to be dealt these headlines week in, week out. And I've started asking my own questions as to what have I done? Am I really getting? And I've had conversations with journalists. What is it that I appear to have done to the JEP to kind of get the week in, week out criticism? I don't mind criticism, but there comes a point at which you do ask yourself what actually is the objective here. And I mean, there are some very good journalists at the JEP who I talk to from time to time, and certainly in the past I've enjoyed good relations. But for example, today's article, I was not called by the journalist who wrote that article. I read in the JP that I was brought under pressure at the Council of Ministers yesterday. Well, I was at the Council of Ministers, and it must have been at a different meeting. Well, because actually, ministers were asked actually to express their support for me, and there was a general consensus. And I've had a minister in this afternoon who've said, "I'm sorry you're having such a hard time, Philip. These things happen. Is there anything that, you know, are you all right?" Now, I'm not getting that sense. So clearly, there has been a briefing given to the JEP, which first of all is inaccurate, and secondly, I haven't had my chance of reply. Yeah. That journalist did not ring me to ask whether or not what my position was.
Well, again, because this is where it's the only newspaper on the island. This is where a huge problem is what a lot of us believe. But again, Graham Power never got, the former chief police never got a chance.
Well, I mean, for reasons I'm
only using it as an example.
I know, but I have not commented, and I'm not going to comment on any of the things to do with the historic child abuse.
It's not. This isn't about the. This isn't about what I'm saying. It's about the newspaper. You know, he didn't get a chance to have his say. There's been a number of people. Yeah, it's not just you, if you like.
I think generally, I think what you generally get with the media is that you will read some stories and say, well, that's a fair cop, or okay, when you read something that's a good article, you read, okay, that you feel good about it. But when it is consistently week in, week out, as it has certainly felt, and I don't know whether or not I'm particularly sensitive or particularly precious, but I certainly am now getting the impression that there is certainly
the knives are out for you.
Well, that's for you to say and for other people to conclude.
A lot of people do say this, that the knives are out for you. And again, this is where
I don't know why they are.
You've got no idea.
Well, Neil, I often am told that I'm part of the establishment, and I look in the mirror and I wonder whether or not, you know, the person I'm looking at in the mirror is part of the establishment. I don't know.
Could it be that you were part of the establishment, you weren't playing ball enough, so they want rid of you?
Look, I mean, I don't think politics works in this sort of establishment way that people think they do. I understand why people think it. I've never really understood what it is. I think it is actually, in most people's thinking, the people that represent power. I don't think people see the kind of constructive tension that there is within the Council of Ministers. There are often disputes, there are often arguments, as there should be. People should be making their points. But I certainly don't recognise the kind of portrayal. I did an interview with the JEP a number of weeks ago. I was the subject of a Saturday interview. On the same day, there was a character assassination done by another journalist that effectively offset that Saturday interview apparently about the good things. I've never seen that. Why was it that there was an editorial decision made to do a Saturday interview and then a character assassination on the same day? I find it odd. And so you can't, it's other people to conclude, but I certainly am uncomfortable with it.
But it brings us to the power at the end of the day that the Jersey Evening Post holds. We've got to, for our overseas viewers especially, they've got to know that this is only one newspaper on this island of 90,000 people. I would put it to you, I think, it's my opinion, they're going to bury you. And they've buried people, and it's my opinion, they've buried people in the past. And this is the power that they wield. They're more powerful than you or any of our politicians.
They are powerful, and that's why I don't often give interviews on blogs, but I do obviously use new media, and I think new media is very powerful. I think the foundation of democracy is plurality of media. I think free speech is important, and I think that's why blogs, the use of Twitter, the use of Facebook is actually the modern way in which you can get messages out. And I do get my messages out, and I try and communicate. I represent every elector in Jersey. It's my job to work for every elector in Jersey, and I provide them now with an alternative way that they can communicate and they can express their views, and I can also tell them what they're doing. Because the world is changing, and the power of the newspaper is obviously also falling, as Rupert Murdoch himself said. Yeah.
Well, exactly. Well, that brings us on. Don't forget, Rupert Murdoch only had 43% of the market readership. He was one of the most feared influential men in Britain, with 43% of the market readership. Now, when we put that in Jersey's context, when the Jersey Evening Post has got 100% of the market readership, that makes them very powerful people.
the JP is powerful, and of course their ability to write headlines is of course very powerful. They will always suggest. I mean, one thing I will say of any written journal is that if you actually read the article, often there will be both sides of the story in it. Not always, but sometimes.
What, in the Jersey Evening Post?
Well, I'm saying that a lot of the written media will represent, and if you look for both sides of the story, you will find it. But of course, a lot of people are then instructed about what the article says by the headlines. And so the headline is going to almost set the scene. Well, and that's one of the difficulties. And I understand the difficulty that the print media have because they want to sell newspapers. I don't think people must believe that newspapers are there for some benevolent purpose of reporting what is the right and an accurate thing. They're there to sell newspapers, and we must understand that. Which is why I also think that some of the other media, and I also try to be fair with the other media, of giving them access to me as a decision maker, and I must be held accountable by others too. It's not only about the JP, and the JP's power in Jersey is certainly waning.
Well, it certainly is waning, well, we believe, but they are still a very powerful thing. Now, where a lot of politicians, some of the older crowd, but there are some people who support citizens' media, the way I view it is that bloggers are discriminated against. We're not allowed to film scrutiny panel hearings. We're not. But well, I don't want to delve into that so much.
Those things are very difficult because, of course, the media will say that they're regulated.
But they're not regulated. They're not regulated, are they? You must be watching Leveson. The press complaints. The print media never have been regulated. In fact, the Press Complaints Commission have disbanded already, and Leveson hasn't even published it. So.
Well, I think that we will all learn from Leveson, and whether or not there can be any. Any lessons learnt from Leveson from Jersey. I mean, certainly it's always a problem. The JP will tell you that they receive complaints from the wide spectrum of ministers and politicians. And I certainly, I mean, I've probably given up complaining, to be honest, because...
Well, that's right, that's in reality, people do give up, because we've just had it with the Pittman case, for instance, Trevor Pittman and the rest of they tried to take, well, we don't talk about the court case, but what I'm saying is, if you want to take the mainstream media, the Jersey Evening Post, to court, or get an apology out of them, or whatever, it's going to cost you thousands and thousands of pounds.
I mean, if I was to try and take the JP to court for every time that I've been caricatured as something, I was characterised as Blofeld, I've been characterised in all ways. I think, to be honest, Neil, you have to have a thick skin as a politician, and you mustn't take some things too seriously. But what you do need is a plurality of media, and you need fairness.
Well, we need
and when I see an article on the front page of the JP which misrepresents what happened at the Council of Ministers according to a source, which doesn't even ask me my view of what I'm going to do, I think that's unfair.
I've come and asked you your view.
I've given it.
And you know, because we like to be as balanced as we can. But this is the problem that I was trying to get onto a second ago, is that if the JP do a number, like I was saying, they can bury people, they can make or break you. The Jersey Evening Post, but what
I think the people of Jersey make or break you.
No, the Jersey Evening Post.
Ultimately, I am accountable. I serve at the pleasure of the State Assembly, and I do respect the Chief Minister's position. If the Chief Minister says to a minister, "I want you to go," then I think a minister needs to very, very seriously consider that, unless there is a real reason. So I do respect Senator Gorst. He is away. I will be discussing my position with Senator Gorst, and we will see what transpires. But I will be representing to the Chief Minister that ultimately I made the right decisions, albeit there's lessons to be learned. Ultimately, we're going to end up with a better solution for the police than we had originally, and I needed to sort out property holdings.
Well, what I need to just finish on, if that's all right, is to make the point is, with the bloggers and everything being discriminated against, what a lot of these politicians don't seem to understand is there's not an alternative newspaper over here. So if they are going to do a number on you, where are you going to go? Who are you going to go to?
Well,
Jersey?
My answer to that is that I think the BBC is important. I think the BBC does have a code of conduct. And I mean, I do think the BBC is important and they're independent. We do have Channel Television, which obviously is another media outlet. We have Channel 103, and we now have the world of the media. We now have the online media world, and so that's why I think that that's going to be increasingly important. I think ministers need to learn and understand how to communicate with the people that they represent, and I think getting direct messages out directly to people so that people can make their own mind up is important. What you mustn't not have is people like me not being questioned. It's important that we're held to account, that we're questioned, and we're questioned vigorously, but it needs to be done fairly.
And in your idea, in your do you believe the JP are doing this fairly?
Are they being fair to me at the moment? No, I don't think they are. I don't understand why, and I think, you know, we will tell. But we all go through periods where we are in, you know, popular or not popular. I've been, unfortunately, the person that has had to make some very difficult decisions. We must not forget, I, for better or for worse, have been the Treasury Minister in the world's worst financial climate time. I've had to cut spending and I've had to increase taxes, and my popularity has suffered because of it. But I'm not in politics for a popularity contest. I'm in politics for trying to do the right thing, trying to get best value for money for taxpayers, and trying to do the right things in terms of putting money into the areas where people need it. Now, people won't agree with me all of the time, but I do my best. But if I no longer have the support of the Chief Minister and the rest of the states, if anybody doesn't have the support of the rest of the states, then they are effectively, their term of office has ended. And I hope that mine isn't.
Senator, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.